I love this concept that Jeff has come up with tonight. Later on tonight, we're going to go to Elvis on tour and try to recreate the musical moments from that movie, celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. And tonight, we've got a couple of movies. We'll be talking about Elvis's third movie coming up in just a little bit, Jailhouse Rock. But right now, we're going to talk about the second movie, and that was Loving You. Now, Colonel Parker, think about him what you will, doesn't matter. I'm sure you'll tell me on social media what your feelings are about that and many other subjects I didn't even ask about. But when Elvis went to Hollywood, Hollywood wanted him. He was the new singing sensation, and Hal Wallace, the producer, who had discovered Martin and Lewis and gotten them into movies, that's Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. Okay, well, I didn't want people to think it was some cooking show or something, but... So Hal Wallace was a producer that was kind of really smart in being able to break someone onto the scene. And so Colonel Parker, in his wisdom, when he signed the big contract with Hal Wallace, he said, I don't want my boy to have the starring role in his first movie. He used that same philosophy when Elvis opened at the International. They wanted Elvis to be the first show in the International Hotel in August of '69. And Colonel said, no, let this Streisand kid open up. She played for 2 weeks. They got all the kitchen problems worked out, all the sound and light problems worked out, and Elvis came in and opened to a perfect opening night. So the wisdom in putting Elvis in Love Me Tender, he wasn't the leading actor, he was a supporting character. Spoiler alert, he got to die at the end of the movie and sing as a ghost over himself. Oh, still to this day. But by that time, Elvis had been on a movie set. Elvis understood how movies worked. He had been able to hang out and talk to camera people and sound people and understood the business. So by his second movie, Loving You, he was ready. And that is this movie, Loving You, that we're going to recreate musically tonight. Now, it was kind of when you watch the movie today, it's kind of like, and even at the time you thought, well, this is kind of Elvis's story, isn't it? It's kind of his story about this guy that comes from nothing into all this adulation. Well, the writer and director, Hal Cantor, actually came to Memphis and visited with Elvis and went to a couple of shows, went to the Louisiana Hayride with Elvis, and understood that world of what Elvis was living in the 50s, and he put that in the movie. Elvis plays a character named Deke Rivers, who's kind of discovered and thrust upon the population, just like Elvis was. Now, this was the movie that Dolores Hart had her first acting role in, Mother Dolores Hart today. Mother Dolores, a wonderful woman, and she would later star with Elvis in another film, but this was her first movie. She got to play a love interest, and this was the movie when Elvis had done Love Me Tender. It was in black and white, and Elvis did not have black hair. He had brownish hair in Love Me Tender, but it was in black and white. But this is the movie that he said, I want to look like my idol of acting, Tony Curtis. And they dyed his hair black for Loving You to look like Tony Curtis. And my worlds collide again. Now, this was also the first of the 7 movies that Elvis did with Hal Wallace. Successful, just like all of his movies. And at the time, big movies like this one would have opened in major cities across the country, but Paramount and Hal Wallace said, no, we're going to do this. We're going to forget the big cities. We're going to go to all the smaller cities, all around the big city. And by doing that, they got this movie out into more theaters for the Elvis fans to see, and that became known in Hollywood as the Presley pattern. From then on, all the movies that Elvis was in, they forget opening at Radio City Music Hall. They put it at 40 different theaters around the New York area. That way the Elvis fans are not going to go to Radio City Music Hall. So that's the way they did that. Brilliant again in the showbiz vernacular. And also this movie, a lot of people love to watch Elvis movies to look in the background for people. Sonny and Red, you know, so if Elvis is fighting somebody, he's usually hitting Red because he could actually hit him and he couldn't get sued. And this movie is chock full of cameos from Elvis's world. Scotty and Bill are in it, the Jordanaires are in it, and Vernon and Gladys are also in it. But we're going to recreate it musically tonight for you, so I want to take you back to the movie theaters in 1957, the summer of '57. This movie opened July 10th, 1957 in Memphis, Tennessee, 3 years almost to the day that Elvis recorded That's All Right. Look what happened in 3 years. This kicked off 1957 for Elvis. Let's go to the movies and see Loving You.